Hello. You are listening to episode 4 of the Elephant Room podcast with me, Frank Shortle, and the Cork love child of our current Taoiseach, Shane Martin. And all the people, so many people, they all go hand in hand through their park lives. Mr. Ian Hand.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that wonderful introduction, Frank.
His introduction was better than mine.
Yours is accurate though.
No, it is accurate.
I'm not Micheál Martin's love child. You've met my dad.
Yeah, but he looked more like Micheál Martin.
He's a very nice man, Shane, but he's not your dad.
He's my mother's boyfriend.
Shall we start this a bit wonky and start off with something quite interesting?
Oh, well, you know me with that itch, Frank.
I think it's incredibly interesting. You know, psychedelic drugs.
Yeah.
Usually when you're on psychedelic drugs, you ingest them or whatever and you listen to music, you'll see, stuff crawling out of the walls, stuff moving, a blade of grass might sing to you, visual things, but the music still sounds the same. You still recognize it as being Jimi Hendrix or whatever psychedelic music you choose. But there is a drug that the hallucinations are auditory. It is a drug called Diisopropyltryptamine, or DiPT for short. Yeah, it's unique in that it causes aural hallucinations. And with small doses, it usually just causes like flanging or kind of pitch shift kind of a feeling to what you're hearing. Like stuff will still sound pretty normal on it. It will kind of sound like it's going up and down kind of frequency and stuff like that, or its proximity. But on medium to higher doses, it causes a radical shift downwards in your perceived pitch. If you take something like middle C, you'll perceive it as being an octave lower than middle C. So basically everyone sounds deeper when they're on, like music will sound deeper and stuff like that. So, but it's not perfectly an octave. So very low end bassy kind of stuff will sound like radically deeper, almost inaudible, almost just a feeling. Even middle C, which transposes down to sounding like an octave below middle C, but it will still be a C, it will still register as a C to you. But the interesting thing is, even if you go up as high as middle E, it will sound more like the F in the octave below. While you're under the influence of this drug, just playing something like a C major chord, just C, E, G, would sound more like in the octave lower than your normal perceptive. It would sound more like C, F, A sharp. So it can sound completely inharmonious. Mm-hmm. And music sounds crap, basically. It sounds wrong. And stuff like a perfect fifth would be about 4.5 rather than 5 notes. So it'd be like an imperfect 4.5. When you hear or compose music, or when you hear music that is harmonious in a sober state on this drug, it sounds warped and wrong, and kind of it's an hallucination basically of how you really feel. But they've hypothesized that if you were to compose music on this that sounds harmonious, like while on this drug, it would sound horrific to everybody else who's not on it. So they've proposed that if you got the exact parameters of what sounds harmonious when you're under the influence of this drug, that you could compose a piece using MIDI and stuff like that, where you can just write in the frequencies of the notes and stuff, because they'd be kind of like microtonal notes and stuff, that it would sound horrendous 99% of the time, but once you're on a high dose of this drug, it would sound amazing, which is basically the most niche hipster genre of music ever.
Yeah. This drug, Frank, like, is it like how long has the scientific community or otherwise have known about this? Like, is it a synthesized drug, or can it be found?
Yes, it's a compound. Okay. The same as DMT. Like DMT is never naturally occurring. You have to make it. Like only really magic mushrooms and psilocybin is like kind of naturally occurring. Yeah. Psychedelics. I think I could be talking at my arse there now, but I'm fairly sure it's synthesized into how it will be ingested. I'm not really sure even how they ingest it. Is it like powder that you swallow or something like that? The small bits of research that has been done on this and been given funding for is trying to find basically, how is it causing these auditory hallucinations? Is it through perceived pitch? So they were testing it on people who had perfect pitch to see if it was like distorting your perception of pitch, or was it linear or stuff like that. And they found most recently they found that it probably is just an effect or a distortion on the cochlear density or on the an increase in pressure on the inner ear, causing it to basically the mechanical end of it more so than the chemical side of it. It's not within the brain. They've basically come to the conclusion now that it is the cochlear density or the inner ear pressure. But in 1994, there was a paper written on it by Dr. Alexander Shulgin. But he thought perhaps it could be the link between understanding the brain functions that causes schizophrenia, because one of the main hallucinations or symptoms of schizophrenia is auditory hallucinations, like hearing voices, or like people with schizophrenia have said that the buildings were talking to them. There's just a voice inside their head and they will hear it. Every one of us has an inner voice that is like us thinking, but people with schizophrenia have reported that, they walk by a building and the building says something to them and they physically hear it as if a human was standing there saying it to them. So he thought maybe if they could figure out with researching DiPT that like what was happening in the brain when you're on that drug, even just in rats and stuff like that, that they might be able to figure it to use it maybe as a therapeutic for schizophrenia, or just figure out how those auditory hallucinations are occurring with schizophrenia. But unfortunately, I think, it's mainly due to distortion of the cochlear or the pressure within the inner ear, which would make it less useful. It's a Class A in the UK. It's a controlled substance in the US, and even in Sweden, it's been classified as a hazardous substance.
But just to get back to like where it originated, Frank, like, was this some sort of like an underground synthesized drug, or was it purposely designed as an experiment to see, how to induce auditory hallucinations?
So it's not really circulating on, like in the US, it's a controlled substance and they have found people selling it illegally, but it would mainly just be people who are kind of probably scientific, putting it around with each other, because it's part of, because it's a Diisopropyltryptamine. Tryptamine is a family of drugs which DMT sits into. It has nitrogen in its chemical or in its makeup. I'm really bad with any sorts of chemistry and stuff like that, but they're saying that is why it is different, and that might be something that the nitrogen element of it might be kind of what adds the extra pressure to the inner ear, whereas a lot of the other tryptamine families don't have nitrogen as part of their makeup, basically. I think it's more so science than a drug. It will just have to be, as I'm saying, it goes into the tryptamine family and technically is an hallucinogenic drug because it is altering one of our senses. So that is technically what a hallucinogen is. It's creating something that isn't there and making us believe that it is there. But that's my queer interesting.
How's it going there? Desi Steel on Wheels here again on the old Massian trailer, bringing you all your non-essential items during level 5. We have all your clothes, your socks, your undergarments, your t-shirts, your jackets, you name it. And then, sure, of course, we're bringing you the old barber there with Matt, and we have Susie doing the old hairdressing. Go on, will you? So that's all your non-essential items direct to your door. And now, of course, we are level 5 COVID compliant. All you have to do is go to DesiSteelsOnWheels.ie, put in your air code, and sure, we'll drive up to, if you have a driveway, we'll go into the driveway. If not, we'll stay out in the public road, but we won't go into the house. It was all above board. And of course, we all have the favourite stuff as well, we've the old cigarettes, the booze, you name it. All the usual stuff that Desi will get to you now, That's Desi Steel on Wheels, non-essential item special, level 5. God bless.
And we're back for the classic album section. And we have a special guest this week. We have Gene Carolan, who is a Drogheda music legend. Gene, who is best known for the Carolan Brothers. Gene, if you'd like to give yourself a bit of an introduction there, rather than me pacing around myself here.
Yeah, cheers. Thanks very much, Frank. So I'm a bass player, big fan of the Elephant Room, and I played with Ian before in the Carolan Brothers for several years. We played music together, I think, in nearly every band bar one that I've been in over the past 15 years or so. And at the moment, I'm playing bass with another Drogheda-based band called the Cax, formerly known as the Great Awkwardo, but we went back or reverted to the name the Cax, and that's a name that we try to live up to these days.
You do live streams and stuff now with COVID, because like you were very big on the gigging scene in Drogheda for basically like your whole life.
Yeah, my brother mostly is playing music full time, and he started live streaming when he was in Texas because the whole gigging scene just fell apart over there. So when he came home, he kept doing that, and he brought us in as his brothers, obviously. So the Carolan brothers have kind of had a rejuvenation in lockdown, playing a few live streams. And this weekend, actually, I'm going to be doing a live stream from Odd Molly's in Drogheda with the Cax as well. So yeah, I've not been doing perhaps as much as I'd like, because I suppose that's one of the great things about the live streams is that, you know, people that you mightn't have got seeing as much. I mean, people are doing it so there's in a way more access to music or more gigs. I know it's not quite the same as it used to be. Obviously, it's not the same atmosphere, but I've certainly seen a lot of musicians that I wouldn't see as often in normal times. I've seen them nearly every weekend or second weekend on my Facebook page.
Yeah, I've not like there's even just big acts and stuff I've seen on like Instagram like that. Yeah, I never see them doing acoustic stuff, and then suddenly you get them see this like intimate gig once a week, which is actually pretty cool. The Odd Molly's stuff you said is this weekend. Is that like the alternative flat thing, or was that a few weeks ago?
The alternative flat thing was in the middle of the flat, but the Odd Molly's thing, they've kind of only started it up in the past week, actually. And yeah, it's a great little idea. I mean, the pubs obviously can't have music, and they can't have any patrons, so they're having bands that live within a 5-kilometer radius of the pub. They're having them in to do these gigs socially distanced. There's no audience, there's no drink served. It's live streamed out, and people are invited to tip for it. And when I heard, my brother was actually doing one of these gigs last week, the first one. And when I heard it was going to rely on, tips in an Irish context, I was very, very concerned. But yeah, people really got behind it. It was fantastic. And my brother, I was just talking to him today, wondering, because he's coming from America, like, and he's gotten so used to the tipping culture over there, especially in relation to music. I said, "Oh, how did it go?" And I assumed it was going to go very badly, but he reckons, they put a lot of work into the production values, and it was really professionally shot. And I think the effort really came across quite well. So I think people were happy to kind of throw a few pounds or euros or whatever towards it for that reason. So it seemed to go really well. I'm looking forward to seeing how it works out tomorrow. We're a bit less of a polished kind of cover band. It's much more gritty, for want of a better word. So I'm interested to see how it translates to a live stream environment.
And it is, yeah, it's a live stream as well, yeah. So
yeah,
people will be able to tip as they're watching, sort of thing.
Yeah, exactly. That's the idea. Yeah, because I mean, that's what I found in the couple of live stream events now I've done with my brother. We did pre-record them once or twice for the time difference. So we recorded them here because I think Stephen was due to go live at something like 1 a.m. Irish time, but over in America it would be his usual time, let's say 7 p.m. or something. So we pre-recorded it, and it just completely, nobody's interested in watching what they know to be a pre-recorded video. They want to be able to talk to the artist. They want to be able to say, can you play this song when you do this song? And they want to have a kind of feedback from the artist. So I think unless you're doing it live, really, it's there's no point. You wouldn't pre-record a gig and put it up and expect your fans to watch it, really.
Yeah,
I haven't done too many of those, with the exception, obviously, of some of the classic Song Remains the Same and the like.
Yeah, it's a weird one. This kind of like trying to adapt to doing live stuff. Like, especially what you be doing, Gene, like of actual, like it's very like folk music is meant to be played in a room with people.
Yeah.
Or like just kind of acoustic kind of like, especially the stuff that you find at the Fla up in Drogheda, like that's like what she's missed out on this summer has just been something very special about being packed into a sweaty room, like surrounded by people. So it is very bizarre trying to just play that into a little camera in front of you and still have the same energy.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I really enjoyed the experience. I mean, my music, I would think anyway, is quite introspective. Like it's been a while since I was in a band that depended on the kind of feedback from the audience in that kind of sweaty kind of atmosphere, But I think there is a lot of scope for positives from the kind of looking into the camera. It is kind of strange, and I spoke to another friend of mine who's doing this weekly as well, and he said it's really odd, at first, but in ways you know, it keeps him in the mood of having to write and having to kind of come up with new material a lot more frequently, because you're nearly, you know, people expect you to appear at a set time each week if you're going to keep doing it each week. So, I mean, yeah, I really enjoyed the experience, especially if people are commenting in real time. You know, instead of, say, playing a gig and then at the end someone comes up to you and says, oh, I like that one song, you know, people can nearly feed back to you as each song is happening, which is really interesting to look back on the comments then afterwards, if you're getting positive ones, hopefully, anyway.
Yeah, I think that's the other side of it. Like, even myself with playing music, anytime I played acoustic, I always found I remember one of the few times I've ever played completely solo was Paddy's Day and Sweeney's in Dublin. And I was playing these acoustic songs that I've written. I was like, oh, the lyrics in this one is really good, the melody and that's really good. But sure, I just had like pissed foreigners coming over and knocking the mic over on me, and I was just like, this no one's listening to me, no one cares what I'm saying. And that's as you said, that's the other side of it. Then, like, people will actually be able to hear your lyrics and hear your melodies with sober ears most of the time, which would be
well, that's what I find. Like, I mean, the Cax is a collective of songwriters from Drogheda, and we don't generally write too many songs together. It's generally songs that the lads have been playing. Like, I mean, they've been writing songs for the past 20 years. So, you know, when I'm asked to contribute songs for that band to play, my style would be quite different. My style would be a lot quieter, a lot more, you know, very gentle, finger picking kind of songs compared to some of their more rowdy songs. So I often find myself just going, no, you know, I just won't bother. Don't worry about it. You know, skip me, come back to me later on. And there's only maybe one or two songs that I do contribute to that band, because we tend to kind of create a kind of rowdy atmosphere. So I found people that I've known for, you know, 5 years or so tuning into live streams and going, God, that's a great song. Did you write that? I never heard that, or whatever. And I, you know, saying, yeah, well, I, you know, released it maybe 7 years ago. So I don't know how, but yeah, like it suits me, the kind of quieter atmosphere where you can maybe get someone to watch you for a couple of seconds, even if they only watch one song when they're scrolling on Facebook. I can see positives in it. Obviously, it's, you know, it's a huge drawback for the music industry as a whole, but there have been positives for me, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. That brings me on to what I was wanting to talk to you about next, and just getting on to influence and stuff like that. I was listening to like what she did with the Carolan brothers, the Equinox EP or album, you could even call it, the song Augustine, like the lyrics and that definitely, like, you need to sit there, like, that's storytelling lyrics, like you definitely need to hear the lyrics in that. You can't really just have that playing away in the corner. It's not background music, like. But yeah, that definitely would be the sort of song that you'd be playing over a live stream that people would actually get to enjoy and listen to it sitting down at home. But yeah, that just brings me on to, like, just the different influences that you'd have when you're writing and recording. Like, obviously that's probably quite a long time ago. You've written many songs since then.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think on the Equinox EP, and I think with the sound and that, like, at the time I was listening to a lot of the Felice brothers, who I still have great time for, but I definitely think that EP was very much band focused and trying to make sure that everyone in the band had a role, and that, you know, I think even perhaps some of the songs we emphasized that everybody should have a role, and that, whereas now the music that I'm playing since has probably gone down that road of probably more being quite acoustic, quite gentle. I've been writing more songs like that rather than, say, band oriented ones since. But I mean, the influences that have remained, I mean, Neil Young and Bob Dylan, I suppose everybody's influenced by them in some way or another, but that definitely they've continued to stay with me. In terms of the music that I'm writing these days, I mean, off the top of my head, I can't really think of more specific ones. I mean, there's a lot of individuals. Blake Mills is somebody that I'm always trying to kind of emulate, but he's impossible to, you know, I mean, his sound is fantastic, his songwriting is amazing, and he's, like, also then just an unbelievable guitar player to boot. So it's like, yeah, he's definitely an influence. I think he's a really smart writer as well, and a really, like, brutally honest songwriter, I think. I mean, that song, Don't Tell All Your Friends About Me, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Blake Mills' work, but just fantastic, kind of really honest reflection on kind of having a fight with your partner or whatever. And I really love that. He's somebody who I really, in the last, say, 2 or 3 years, was like, oh Jesus, yeah, that's somebody that's what I want to sound like. And the war on drugs, I think, in the last couple of years as well, that has really pushed me back to that kind of feeling of actually, yeah, screw all this solo music. I want to go and get with a band and just like play an 8-minute solo and see where it goes. Like, but yeah, I think they're the influences at the moment over the last couple of years.
Anytime I've seen you play live or listen to it, that harmonies is something that you're just absolutely like flawless at, yourself and your brothers. Did that come from practice? Like, is that something you went like, we really need to practice this because the music we like has so many layered harmonies, or is that something that just kind of naturally came to you from playing music together and just kind of joining in with each other and stuff?
I'd like to think it was natural, but no, it definitely wasn't. I mean, you know, harmony singing did not come naturally to me at all. And I don't know if Ian even remembers that, but like in the first like serious band we were part of, Holy Matrimony, like I was the one who I couldn't hear anything but the melody. And I found it very hard to distinguish between, say, melodies and harmonies. And I remember the guys in that band having to kind of drill into me, no, this is your note, like, you know, you're up here. And it was the same then with the brothers. I mean, it was kind of, none of us at the time when we started out really had the confidence to be a lead singer. We had sang, like myself and Stephen, who's my brother, who's a full-time musician. We traditionally sang behind somebody else, and we considered ourselves quite good at that. So when we started actually doing our own songs and things like that, I mean, my friend Pat actually turned to me and said, yeah, it's great. Like, I don't know who's going to fill in the role of the singer though. Like, you have everything, you just don't have a singer. But you know, then he was amazed, because what happens then is somebody just has to fill that gap. And it's the same, I can see it happening with my brother now. I started singing kind of because I was writing these songs, and I just said, well, fuck it, I have nobody else to sing them. And then I can see my brother then fell into the role of just kind of backing me. And since now he's gone out on his own as well, you can see he's very much just taking up his own personality, and it's getting stronger as time goes on. So the harmony thing, I mean, yeah, it was kind of a defense mechanism, really. It was like, look, this is something that we can do, and it's something unique that we can maybe offer. And I suppose then there was kind of positive reinforcement in that people kind of are very impressed when they hear harmony singing, and if they hear it done reasonably well. So when we were getting people saying, geez, that's great, it did encourage us to like put a lot more work into it. But I mean, yeah, it's not something that comes, I always find it very annoying that you look at certain artists and you can see that the harmonizing comes very naturally to them. We do put a lot of work into ours, and there does be a lot of kind of bust-ups in the rehearsals to try and get something to work. But yeah, it is something we have to kind of work at and work out.
I think it's just to reinforce a catchy melody, and it's definitely like on songs on that Carolan Brothers EP. Like, there's so many small little hooks, and like the song the Longest Winter and stuff. There's just like so many that just, when you sing it like by yourself, it's like, yeah, that's catchy. And then like once there's the layers of harmony on it, you're just like, like, I think I heard that song the first time when you released it, and then I didn't listen to it for years, and then I listened to it again like last week. I was like, I remember this song, because it was just like really catchy, just from the reinforcement of a good melody, then with the harmony on top of it, really does hit home the hook basically of the melody.
Cheers, yeah.
I think that bleeds in nicely to the After the Gold Rush, because the harmonies on that are definitely something to behold.
Absolutely, yeah.
You want to take the reins there on that one, Ian?
Yeah, cheers, Frank. Yeah, like, I mean, I think one of the biggest influences on the likes of us, Gene, with the Carolan Brothers was Neil Young. I mean, we started off as Neil Young cover band.
Yeah.
All those years ago, and bag full of songs.
Yeah, 100%.
Absolutely. But After Gold Rush in particular, I mean, it was the third studio album from Neil. So it's kind of a bit of a departure from the second album, Everybody Knows This Is Nowhere, which was a lot more heavier with Crazy Horse, obviously. But After Gold Rush is kind of when you first see Neil Young embrace this whole kind of folk movement and the softer acoustic side of him. Still, though, you still have elements of Crazy Horse there, obviously. It's kind of like a perfect mix of Crazy Horse and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, that album. He brings personnel from both together. But the actual album itself was actually, I'm sure you know this already, Gene and Frank, that it was actually inspired by a screenplay by Dean Stockwell, and absolutely bizarre origin. Basically, this guy Stockwell, he was a neighbor of Neil Young in Los Angeles, in the canyon in Los Angeles, and he was away in the jungles in South America with Dennis Hopper, just off exploring away, and he was detailing to Hopper this idea for this kind of apocalyptic film after Gold Rush, after the boom, basically. And Hopper absolutely loved it and said, "Here, listen, when we get back, I promise you, I'm gonna make this into a film. It's going to be great, So when they got back, a lot of the Hollywood execs were scared off because of Dennis Hopper's involvement. They didn't really want anything to do with it. So Stockwell was kind of left like, "All right, okay, well, I have this screenplay." And he was good friends with Neil, obviously. He was a good neighbor, good friend. And Neil at the time, this is kind of late 69, it's winter 69 early. He was suffering from writer's block. So Stockwell said, "Hey, look, I have this screenplay here. It'd be fantastic if you worked on maybe like a soundtrack or something." And he said, "Yeah, I'll give it a go. I'll have a read." And he just became absolutely mesmerized by it. He loved the whole concept of it. So that's how it kind of gained legs. And a lot of the songs on After Gold Rush, they're written specifically for it. Obviously, the title track, a few other ones as well. Only Love Can Break Your Heart. Now, it all ties into it in the story. But as I was saying, that this was kind of his first real kind of unleashing to the world this folk kind of songwriting that he's known as. He's known as an absolute fantastic folk singer songwriter now, and it all began with After Gold Rush. Really, yes, I know there are elements of it, and Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young, but this was his first kind of real attempt at it. And if you go through the album, like the first opener, Tell Me Why, like I remember when I first heard you Stephen and James do that, Gene, like I got goosebumps. I remember, it's absolutely fantastic. Yeah. But just before I go into all the tracks and that, like I'd love to just get kind of your take on the album, because I know that was an absolute cornerstone of the foundation of the Carolan Brothers.
Yeah, no, and that, like, After the Gold Rush was my introduction to like Neil Young. I mean, I knew a couple of his songs, like obviously the kind of big hitters and things like that. But I remember when I first listened to After the Gold Rush as like one single piece of work, just being blown away. And like you said, yeah, that intro of Tell Me Why. I mean, like if I still pick up a guitar, that is the like go-to song I would go to just if I'm not even thinking, like I'll just fart that out, like that intro and that first round. Like it's just absolutely brilliant. But yeah, it's funny, the story, I know I'm always having that conversation with people as well, when people are like, "Did you know it's an unofficial soundtrack to such and such?" And it always kind of breaks my heart, like, to think of it that way, that it is that he wrote it with a film in mind, because I love to think of it as just this. It does help to explain, I suppose, some of the songs, and I mean, I love them. I don't think they're any less forward, but Till the Morning Comes and Cripple Creek Ferry, you are kind of like, oh, these are like intervals, or it's like a musical little interlude or a palate cleanser in between all these other songs. But yeah, no, I mean, it was completely the foundation for the Carolan Brothers and that band to be like, oh yeah, we should do a tribute to like Neil Young. And I think most of the songs we picked are probably after the Gold Rush. I mean, the sound of it enamored me. I mean, I love his heavier stuff as well, and with age, I think I've come to appreciate the vast catalogue of stuff that he's done. But After the Gold Rush is still the album that I go back to. I think I prefer it to Harvest. For me, I think it reflects the Neil Young that I definitely still love. Yeah,
and sure, Only Love Can Break Your Heart was one of our big ones. But and obviously you have the big rivalry, or the pseudo rivalry that came from After Gold Rush, Southern Man. So Neil and Leonard Skinner locking horns, like, but brilliant tit for tat. And look, they absolutely, like the two of them, they have great respect for each other, like
I think you're gonna tell that story.
Well, no, just that obviously the whole Sweet Home Alabama thing and that, but that they wore each other's t-shirts as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's absolutely brilliant. And I think they did meet in person a few times. You know, like they were big fans. Yeah, and then you know, as you move on, and you were saying there, Gene, yeah, you have little intervals like "Till the Morning Comes," you know, which are blatantly written for the screenplay. Absolutely, like, but kind of halfway through the album, you get to this cover, "Oh Lonesome Me," lovely piece, originally by Don Gibson, 1957, originally released, and I actually listened to the original one there during the week, and the tempo was a lot faster than Neil Young's. Like Young really brings it down to way more kind of sorrowful tempo, you know, it really works well. And then when you get into Don't Let It Bring You Down, that's just that. I absolutely love Don't Let It Bring You Down, because I think that's where you get the kind of Crazy Horse influence coming back, you know. I absolutely love that. And of course you have Niels Lofgren and Jack Nietzsche on piano. Absolutely fantastic. When you can dance, you can really love. I mean, sure. We used to jam at the odd time with coffee, didn't we?
Yeah. That for me is the Crazy Horse kind of influence coming back into it.
Oh,
that opening, and the tempo is all over the place as well. It's so like live and raw. Such a track.
Yeah. I think that was actually, wasn't that one of the last tracks, Frank? Now you can fact check this. Well, I think that, and I Believe in You, I think those kind of two sessions, weren't they one of the last tracks that Danny Whitten played with Neil Young?
Yeah, they are the very last two,
yeah. Tragic story, that really, isn't it?
Yeah, he's the first guitar player for Crazy Horse, who's a heroin, died of a heroin overdose.
But yeah, and then obviously at the end, then you have that little kind of ditty number, Cripple Creek Ferry. Really reminds you of Yellow Submarine or something, Frank. You just imagine Pepperland or something, you know. But I have a nice fact for you, Gene, right, about After Gold Rush that I think is quite freaky now. When I discovered it, I thought, Jesus, this is weird, given that it's such resonance to you, Gene, right? So you know the front cover of After Gold Rush?
Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, he's walking by this building or whatever, you know. No, it's nothing to do with the old woman and theories and conspiracy, nothing like that, right? Do you know what that building is that he's passing? No. It is outside of the New York University School of Law campus.
Oh, no way.
So, you know, you're a law lecturer, massive fan of Neil Young. Who would have known? You know?
Yeah, coming full circle. That's incredible.
your most favorite Neil Young album, like.
Yeah, and it's the New York campus. That's I wouldn't expect that. I would have thought it would have been some kind of Canadian monument.
Do you want to hear my Eric Clapton connection?
This is probably way more. This is probably way more tied in than Daniel Johnson's.
Oh, absolutely. This was a piece of piss, really. So the Eric Clapton connection is After the Gold Rush came straight after Deja Vu, which is Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. They all released an album, I think in 1970 after Deja Vu, and Stephen Stills released Stephen Stills, his first album, and Eric Clapton plays on the fifth track, Go Back Home. He plays the guitar solo on it. So there's the connection to it, because Stephen Stills plays, he does harmonies on Only Love Can Break Your Heart.
Of course, yeah.
So he's on that album. But also what's interesting about that Stephen Stills first album is it's the only recording that has Hendrix and Eric Clapton on the same record, because Hendrix plays on the fourth track. What's it called again? Old Time, Good Times. Hendrix is actually playing on that Stephen Stills song.
Wow. Class. That's absolutely
class.
Class.
Yeah, much easier connection there than the Daniel Johnston one.
Oh.
That's going to get harder as the weeks go by, and I'll definitely lose interest in it.
You have to keep going, Frank. This is our staple now, you know.
While we have you here, G, what do you think of Eric Clapton? What's your 2 cents on the man?
Old slow hands.
Yeah, exactly. What a shit name.
Yeah, I don't know. He ruined I Shot the Sheriff, didn't he? That's my opinion.
Yeah, that suits me.
If you Start the fucking queue, I'll damage your face. Place your orders online, don't come near the fucking place. I won't be held accountable for tracking fucking trace. We won't be selling drinks, so go on explore the mess. 12 for 1 a bun is queerly son. Dirty kebabs that are all vegan. Veggie taco fries, I ain't telling lies. You won't believe your eyes when you're eating in style. One last thing, cauliflower wings. That's fucking right, I'm the vegan chicken king. The vegan chicken king. Oh, motherfucking vegan chicken king. South Main Street, Wexford Town, son. Just Eat, Deliveroo. Talbot Green, massive. Oh, bed lard. Fucking vegan jam. Jam it out, get in here. Get up over that. Get up over that. Lord Jesus.
So we're back again for another week of Fight or Pint. Because we have Gene, this week it's Fight or Pint by decade, and it's versus mode. Okay, so I'm going to give you two names, and you have to fight one, and you have to pint the other.
Like Snog, Marry, Avoid.
Exactly. So I've done it by decade. Seeing as Gene is the guest, we're going to have him go first. Would you prefer the 50s, the 60s, or the 70s?
Oh, the 70s, please.
Okay, so your two people that you're either going to fight with or pint with are David Bowie and Elton John.
Oh, very good, Gene. That's going to be good for you, man.
Oh, Fight or Pint? Oh, I'd love it. Yeah, I think Pint with David Bowie anyway. Because I think that just solely in the hope that we'd have a conversation like that conversation where he talks about the internet in like 1999 or 97, and he completely predicts like everything that's happening now with like Cambridge Analytica and the misinformation and things like that. So David Bowie to the pint, and Elton John for a fight, because I'd say it's not hard to rattle him. I'd say you get into a fight with him very quickly. It seems like quite a diva. I suppose it'd be fighting 70s Elton John as well, wouldn't I?
Yeah, so it'd be he's all coked up and
he's
Makes all right for fighting.
yeah,
Dressed up in his Watford outfit.
so you're gonna
His kit on.
you're gonna fight Elton John and then go for a pint with David Bowie afterwards and talk about the internet.
There's someone out there that has done that.
So
Actually, Eric Clapton.
yeah, there's your connection. Eric Clapton once fought Elton John and had a pint with David Bowie after. Your fun fact about David Bowie is his first television appearance of his career wasn't as a musician or even as an actor, but instead as the founder of the Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Long-Haired Men. The group made an appearance on the BBC's Tonight Show in 1964, where he was a then 17-year-old Davy Jones, and he was protesting the treatment of men with long hair living in the post-Beatles world. My Elton John one isn't as good, so it's probably right that you fought him. Over the 5 decades his career began in 1969, Elton John has played more than 3,500 concerts in over 80 countries. This means that if you played a concert every day, it would take you almost 10 years to catch up with him. So if you started today and watched one a day. Okay, so who wants to go next? Will we go with you, Frank? Do you want to go next?
Give it to me.
Okay, so do you want the 50s or the 60s?
I'll go 50s because I think Ian wants the 60s.
Okay. So the 50s, I have Fight or Pint, Dean Martin and Ray Charles.
See, it has to be a pint with Dean Martin because it's the Rat Pack. The boys will probably be there with him.
He's king of cool as well. Like.
Yeah, and just being sat beside him would get you some points. Like, but you can't really like fighting Ray Charles. It's questionable at best. Like,
You're some fuck, Frank.
if you just turn around and go, yeah, just fought Ray Charles there. No one's gonna respect you after that. Like, yeah, I've heard Ray Charles could be a bit handsy with women, so maybe I can step in sometime when he was being handsy, and I could be a hero.
Yeah.
I'll pick my moment. I'm not just gonna run up and deck the blind fella.
Yeah. Sucker punching, like. Fun fact about Dean Martin. He didn't speak English until he was 5. Dean Martin was actually born Dino Paul Cortoretti. So if you couldn't tell by my accent or by the name, he grew up with a very Italian family, and he didn't speak English until he was 5 years old. So Ray Charles, I thought this was very interesting. So Ray Charles navigated by sound. So he had hard-soled shoes. He didn't use a cane or a seeing eye dog. He just had hard-soled shoes, and that's how he got around. Another kind of interesting fact about Ray Charles is he's been able to play piano, saxophone, trumpet, clarinet, and organ ever since he attended the school for deaf and blind in Florida. So not just like, obviously he's known as a piano player, but he could play all those other instruments as well.
You have to fight someone like that, Frank.
So Ian, that leaves you with the 60s. So your two people are Bob Dylan and Jim Morrison. So fight or pint.
So this is them in their 60s, like in the 1960s.
1960s, yeah. They're just come into prominence, you know?
Yeah, okay. I would have to go for a pint with Bob Dylan.
Oh.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. No. I have my reasons. I just
really want to beat the shit out of Jim Morrison.
Hold on now. There's a few, like, is it Jim Morrison like 66 when he's still tripping and being like Mr. Mojo Rising, or is it like 1970s Jim Morrison when he was a unit?
Not the unit, Frank.
Because he chose 60s, it's 60s. Morrison.
That's true. Yeah. Well, yeah. Even 69 Jim Morrison when he had the beard, he could have.
Oh yeah, he's a bit of a rougher. Like,
I want to hear Ian squirm a little bit more here and tell us what his reasoning is. So,
like, look, I like the Doors and that, you know, like they're cool. Like, you know, I'm not a huge fan. I always thought Jim Morrison was a bit of a fucking poser, you know. Oof. Like a real poser, you know, to the extent where, like, come on, yeah, cop the fuck on, like, you know.
As much fun as it would be to throw you under the bus, I actually agree with you. I think most people do, unless you're an absolute Morrison fanatic. A lot of people take him with a pinch of salt, like.
And sure, look, Bob Dylan, like, I mean, for God's sake, you know, an absolute legend. It'd be great to have a chat with him, although I don't know if you would like to necessarily have a chat and a pint with me, but
genuinely think you'd be more justified hitting the blind fella Ray Charles than you would hitting Bob Dylan.
Yeah.
Come on, he's such a weed. Like,
So I'm going to give you your facts now, Ian. So this one I genuinely didn't know. You probably will tell me that you knew this because you're probably bigger Dylan fans than I am. But his first professional recording was a harmonica player for Harry Belafonte. The title track of Belafonte's 1962 album, Midnight Special, boasts the first ever professional recorded performance of Bob Dylan as a harmonica player. Jim Morrison, his senior year English teacher, said, Jim read as much as and probably more than any student in his class. But everything he read was so offbeat, I had another teacher who was going to a Library of Congress check to see if the books Jim was reporting on actually existed. He suspected that he was making them up, and as they were all English books on 16th and 17th century demonology. So that's what he was into.
What?
Yeah.
An absolute hipster poser.
Yeah, and now you're glad you boxed the head off him.
Yeah, that just reaffirms it. Yeah.
The pints go to Dean Martin, Bob Dylan, and David Bowie. And
what a weird party.
The the fights go to Ray Charles, Jim Morrison, and Elton John. I think
it's almost a hate. There's a hate crime element creeping into the fight now.
Yeah, we sound like horrible people after that.
Hey, so yeah, that's the end of Fight or Pint. Thanks for playing.
The Elephant Room recommends.
So for our final section, we'll start with Ian this time. What can you recommend to us, Ian?
So this episode, I'm going to recommend Men I Trust. Their new single that just came out a few weeks back, last month, Lucky Sue. It's the perfect dream pop, sultry tune. That synth bass, slow groove. It's literally, you know, we were talking, Shane, earlier on slow and reverb songs. Like this is actually one of those, not even slowed down. It you don't need to slow and reverb it. It's perfect as is. But yeah, it's very tantalizing. You know, it's just a single. It's on a new album. Hopefully, one will be coming out. If I was to recommend one of their albums, you know, Uncle Jazz last year, a 24 track bonanza, absolutely fantastic. Yeah, that's me.
Gene, what can you recommend to us as our special guest?
I have been listening to the Staves' new track. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Staves. I'm sure you are. The three sisters, I think, also from Watford. Actually, I don't want to fight the Staves. I'd like to marry the Staves, any one of them. But yeah, their new track, "Good Woman," it's called, and yeah, it's great. They played it relatively safe with it. Like it's not, you know, anything breaking the mold, but it's just a really solid recording. I think I love the sound on it. It's really warm. It's quite compressed. The drums sound fantastic, and it's quite minimalist. It's got this lovely kind of just simple groove through the whole thing, and deadly three-way harmonies. And it's just got a good hook. It's kind of it's a bit of a guilty pleasure at the moment. But I love their last album, and I'm looking forward to the new one. And I say this track is worth checking out.
Nice. Shane, what do you got for us?
What I've been listening to this week, and kind of what I'd recommend people go listen to, is the 20th anniversary release of Outkast's Stankonia album. So it came out in October 2000, which just seems like, I don't know, because I listened to it when it came out only yesterday, but that makes me feel really old now. But it was their fourth studio album, so it has songs on it like Miss Jackson, So Fresh, So Clean, and Bombs Over Baghdad. But what the nice thing about this is it's a re-release, but it also is a double album. So the second album, or part of it, is remixes of all those songs by other artists. So the standout one to me is Zach De La Rocha from Rage Against the Machine has done a cover, or not a cover, remix of Bombs Over Baghdad, which is already a shit kicker of a song, and he's added guitars and live drums to it and made it really grungy and cool. So highly recommend that. Yeah. Huh? Did you say? I thought you said pass, like nah.
No, class.
I thought Ian listened to all of that and then just went pass.
Poser.
Yeah,
No.
It's another pack of posers.
Yeah. What have you been listening to, Frank?
I've been listening to a guy called J.W. Francis. He's a Brooklyn musician. I'm fairly sure, I don't know too much about him. I came across him through Submit Hub when I was putting our music on it, and he was one of the songs that came up. So yeah, I only kind of know him through his Instagram page now. But he seems to be a bit of a kind of Mac DeMarco type character. I think he does everything himself. It's very, very lo-fi recordings. They're kind of very hot in the recording term, you know, and that they're very kind of record with the microphones turned up very loud and everything's very close mic'd. So I think he does everything like in his bedroom. But yeah, it's really catchy songs and really nice, clean guitar sounds. Never uses distortion. It's all very warm and cozy kind of sounds. He has a new album that's actually coming out on the 7th of November, so it'll be out by the time this is out, so check that out. But in particular, he has a song called Everything, which came out I think maybe in April of this year, but I think that's by far his best song. But yeah, he's one to look out for, because I think he'll be probably popping up on people's Spotify a bit more over the next few months.
Pass.
I'm not going to let that one down.
I think we're good to wrap up, yeah, on that bit of we'll say thanks a million to Gene Carolan for joining us.
Cheers, folks.
You said you will be doing, probably, will it be a regular live streaming thing from Odd Mollies?
This one, no, it's going to be a regular for now. So just this weekend, and again, it'll probably have aired by the time this goes live. But hopefully, I'll be involved again soon. Anyway, hopefully, it won't be the last of me.
And where do you find the live streams? Is it on Odd Mollies' website or on their Facebook and Instagram and stuff?
Yeah, Facebook page, is where they stream from. So
yeah, seriously, keep an eye out for that, because hopefully when the world ever gets back to normal, we can all see you again in person. But for now, we'll all enjoy the streams. And as you said, it's in a different sort of appreciation mode. But yeah, if you're keeping an eye out, look out for Odd Mollies and the boys playing.
Tune in and tip. Make sure you tip your musicians.
Yeah, and tip.
Yeah.
Cheers, lads. Thanks very much. Thanks for having me. Great to chat to you.
No, thanks for putting up
Cheers,
with
Gino.
us. Yeah, we'll leave it there, guys. We'll talk to you the next time.
All the best.